So Grinnell is really great because I think 70% of our classes study abroad. They had a lot of different programs that I could decide between, and I initially thought I wanted to do France. I wanted a more European kind of idea, and I was going to study abroad in Aix-en-Provence, which is in the south of France. But the program I was going to be there was canceled, which was rather fortuitous because I was then looking at other programs, and it was like, before I was like not 100% sure I was on board with this program, and then I realized I wanted more of an I wanted some different anthropological, yeah, I guess, okay, it's a word. I wanted to be forced out of my comfort zone a little bit more. To study abroad at Grinnell, you have to apply to Grinnell to study abroad, and then you can apply to your program. Their process is pretty thorough in the fact that they want to make sure you can still graduate on time. I had some interesting conversations with different people. I had one time this person thanked me for being in their country, and it was like kind of the white savior complex of like, you're in here, you must be helping us. Where I think when I like tried to speak the language and was asking them questions about like the markets, it became less of like, I'm here to fix you, and more of I'm here to learn, which was what our program really emphasized. Like when we were going to different places and we were talking to different people, we weren't trying to take their time, we weren't trying to tell them how to do things, we were just trying to understand what was going on and how they were working within their system and what the system was. I think when we spoke, a lot of people were really excited that we were trying to learn the language, because I also think there's something to be said about how you can communicate and different things come across when you're speaking in the native language that just you can't in a non-native language. And I think to make ourselves that vulnerable, because we weren't speaking it well, it showed a level of commitment that often people were much more willing to chat with us or barter with us or help us get to where we needed to go if we were willing to do it in their language, which was really nice. Knowing like how to live without them now, and then like when people are complaining about things, being like, but like we don't need to complain about that, like we can be fine without this. And I think it's also just like that being privileged enough to have that experience and recognizing that now I'm privileged here, and just the way like our society talks about developing third world countries and just like how we just kind of shit on them, like Trump calling them a shithole, like that's not an accurate representation of who these people are in their situation. Certain people I can talk about like, oh yeah, I didn't have running water while I was there. And certain people I really don't feel comfortable saying that to, because all they walk away is being like, oh my god, like wow, she lived without running water. I did a lot with them, but it was hard to share with them. When I came back, it was a mixture of like, I had been traveling for a really long time then, I had seen a lot of different things. Like I had talked to my parents like throughout, so like they knew everything that was going on, like they listened to my like dreams about cheese. Cause like in the village I was like, oh my god, what I would give for some cheddar cheese right now. It was like things like that, like super ridiculous. I think it helped that my dad he had been to a developing country before. Well, I guess my mom visited him too, so. But they my dad had Peace Corps, my mom visited, and then they also then visited my grandparents when they were in Peace Corps. So they had like a general idea of the kind of situation I was in, so it wasn't like I'm using a squat toilet and like, what? Like I didn't have to explain to them what that was. Which just makes that conversation so much easier. But I do feel like I just had a really hard time talking about it, because talking about it meant that I had to remember it, and meant that I wasn't there. Like, it took me a really long time to be able to look at photographs without crying, because I was like, to these people, this culture, and the vibrancy of this experience is just not there anymore. So, like, I think for a while, like, I just didn't want to talk about it. And I felt like they also, like, didn't see me as that differently. Like, yeah, sure, I'd been traveling for 6 months, and, like, my whole 2 months of traveling I paid for completely on my own. Because I was like, I want to do this, but, like, you guys have already sacrificed enough. Like, this is what I'm paying for. So, like, I didn't have to ask them when I was booking something or figuring out where I was going to, because it was my money. And, like, of course I told them about it, and I shared those experiences, but I came back and I felt like I had grown so much, and I like knew how to navigate all these different places, and I had been in so many weird situations or just like frustrating or scary situations that I had figured out. And then all of a sudden I was back in my house, and I didn't have a car, and I was in my like childhood bedroom with my parents, who they saw me still as a little baby girl. And I was like, or like my dad would be complaining about like they picked me up from the airport in Canada, in Toronto, and we were driving back there, and he was freaking out because the GPS on his phone didn't work because we were in Canada. I was like, let's talk about the fact that you have a smartphone. Like, A, that's wonderful. B, let's talk about the fact that okay, so stop at McDonald's and they'll have free Wi-Fi and then we'll load it. Like, there's a McDonald's. And, like, my mom will just give me this look of, like, don't. Like, you might have had this experience, but we didn't.